All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Again, this is Ralph Sebelius with Boardwalk Wealth Solutions. I want to say thank you so much for joining us this evening, taking time out of your schedule. We are super excited to continue on the path of learning more about the Prosperity Pathfinder. If you all weren't with us last, I think it was December actually, that we did the original webinar on this on the Prosperity Pathfinder. We basically gave a very high level overview of the process with the different stages involved. And beginning this year, we're going to be doing a very in-depth look at each of the stages of the Prosperity Pathfinder, which consists of 4 stages that I'll tell you more about. Stage 1 is the current manifest. And unfortunately, I have to tell you, it's the most boring stage. It is the most boring stage, and it is the most tedious one. However, it is honestly, in my opinion, the most important, and it is very critical and vital to the success of the entire to the entire process. So again, I appreciate you being here. We'll get right into it. Shouldn't be more than about a half hour, 45 minutes. I will not be taking any questions or checking the chat while we're talking through this. Everyone here should have our contact information. So if you have questions, you want to follow up, please feel free to give us a call, reach out to us via email, social media, however you would like to reach out to us, and we will follow up with you at that point. I'll also have all of that contact information listed for you during this presentation. So let's just get right into it here. So our agenda, pretty straightforward and clear. I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to Boardwalk Wealth Solutions, about myself and about Kim and our team and how we help our clients. I'll do it very briefly, but I do know that majority of the folks here have been working with us. There are some folks that have not worked with us, so for their benefit, I'm going to get into just kind of introducing us and our team and what we do, and then we'll jump right into the Prosperity Pathfinder with our focus on the current manifest, and then we'll conclude and get you on your way. So here's our team. You've got me there, Ralph Sebelius. I am the founder and senior wealth advisor for Boardwalk Wealth Solutions. And then you have Kimberly Terenzi, who is our practice manager, essentially the heartbeat of the practice. There's a little bit of background information on me. I achieved my bachelor's degree in economics from Wake Forest. Did ROTC at Wake Forest, so I jumped right into becoming an Army officer upon graduation, served 4 years, really got to see the world during those 4 years. It was a great experience. I enjoyed my time in the military. Upon leaving the military, I got my master's in business from University of Florida, 2005, achieved the Certified Financial Planner designation in 2012, but I have been serving clients since 2007. So I've a total of about 18 years of experience in the financial advisor role. Community involvement, I'm probably overserved at this point, but I am the president of the Rotary Club of Tampa Foundation, which is offshoot of the Rotary Club of Tampa. I am a Rotarian as well and a member of that club. I also serve as trustee at Academy at the Lakes, which is where my son Luke goes to school. He is currently a high school senior, so finishing up his senior year there. I'm also a board member at Jackson and Action 83 Foundation, which is a foundation that supports local military families with an emphasis on the health and well-being of the children. And I'm also recently appointed as a board member to the North Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, whose office is right near mine here in Wesley Chapel. So very involved in the community, and if I'm not doing that, I'm spending time with my 2 kids, Luke and Tessa. Like I said, Luke is a senior in high school and Tessa is a freshman, and she's very much into dance. So I spend many of my weekends at dance competitions as a dance dad. And then Kim Terenzi, she has a bachelor's in elementary education from University of South Florida. She served 14 years as a teacher. God bless her soul. And Practice manager. She essentially is, responsible for all facets of our operations. Our clients all know Kim very well because she touches base with them on a very consistent basis. She guides all new clients through the onboarding process, is responsible for ongoing communication with clients, and essentially just that primary point of contact for all client needs on a daily basis. And she does very well in that role and has really brought us to new levels. So how we serve our clients. So first and foremost, of course, we use the Prosperity Pathfinder as a guide through the personalized financial planning process that we take our clients through. That also includes regular updates, market updates, news, things happening in the industry, products and services that are coming available. We do ongoing reviews with our clients because it's very important to keep up with their life and what changes have happened that we may not know about, so we can make appropriate changes to their plan. And then we also host regular events, obviously to share information and news, but also just to, be personal and socialize with our clients. We have very close relationships with all of our clients. We also have access to a very dynamic and comprehensive list of portfolio managers, products, and services. All of that is through our broker dealer partner, which is LPL Financial. LPL Financial is where all of our clients' accounts are housed, and we can also, again, leverage and utilize their resources. They're a fairly large firm. They've been around since 1988, I believe it was, 85. Anyway, they've been around a long time, and they've serviced primarily independent advisors like myself, and they've been a great partner for us. We also utilize customized and integrated financial tools to sort of help optimize our process, our financial planning process with our clients, and also to incorporate that Prosperity Pathfinder and sort of automate a lot of the features of it. I will be giving everyone if you're already a client, you've probably already seen the Right Capital financial planning system that we use. But if you're not, you'll get a sneak peek today into that Right Capital software system, which is really cool. And I'm really excited about showing you. So here's the Prosperity Pathfinder. If you did sit in on our original webinar, sort of our unveiling of the Prosperity Pathfinder, if you will, back in December of last year, this looks a little different because the original graphic of the Prosperity Pathfinder was all me. I did it on the Canva app, and I was so proud of it, and it really did. It looked great. But we kind of wised up a little bit, and we hired a marketing person, and they really jazzed this thing up. And I'm very proud of what it's become of us working with the marketing folks to develop this into a really very clear visual on what the Prosperity Pathfinder is. So there's 4 unique stages, as you can see here. Stage one is the current manifest, which, as I said before, we're going to dive into pretty deeply today. The second phase the current manifest is the question around that stage is, where are you now? So we're getting a very clear picture of where you are now. Destination clarifier is the next stage. That question related to that stage is, where would you like to go? So in that session, we're really just getting a clear understanding of what your goals are, your dreams, your needs, all the things that surround where we want to go from there. And then that leads us right into the Journey Navigator. And you can see along that path, it says clear, actionable, and aligned. And that describes what those goals, dreams, and needs are. We need to be very clear with them so we know where we're going. They need to be actionable so that we can actually execute upon them. And they need to be aligned with what you want, clearly. So the Journey Navigator is sort of where I step in, and I'm giving the input as to how do we get there. This is an entirely collaborative process. During the Journey Navigator, I'm making recommendations, I'm developing strategies, I'm collaborating with not only you, but I'm also collaborating with your attorney, your CPA, maybe partnering you up with those professionals if you don't already have one. And we can collaborate on different strategies. And I'm a big fan of keeping those three professionals in your life fairly separate, from the standpoint of every one of us has expertise in our area, and every one of us can come up with unique strategies in that area, and together we can come up with, you know, well, I don't want to say perfect, but almost the perfect solution, and strategies for you to be able to achieve those goals. Probably things that you wouldn't be able to think of on your own. And then the last stage here is the legacy multiplier. How do you want to be remembered? Um, Estate planning plays a very crucial role in your financial life. It can solve for a lot of problems, and it can give you peace of mind to know that things are going to happen even if you can't speak for yourself. It also helps us plan ahead. So if we know what you want to happen later, we can plan now to make sure that that happens. And sometimes, these strategies take years to execute. So we want to make sure we plan ahead, and the legacy multiplier process or stage kind of helps us get there. So let's dive into the current manifest. And like I said before, I didn't mean to scare anybody off. I hope nobody left. But it's kind of the most tedious and most boring stage of all four, because we're really just trying to gather information. We're sort of getting a financial inventory of your entire life, in a very comprehensive way. So a lot of the work in this phase is done on your end, on the client's end, to gather this information. So we'll definitely work together, and I'll make sure you know exactly what information we need. But a lot of the work in gathering that is going to be on the client end. So we're basically getting an overall snapshot of your current state. So when you think of manifest, that word manifest, some people think of like manifesting their dreams, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about like the manifest of a ship or the manifest of a plane. Here we're getting a very clear idea of where you are right now, where we're starting from, who is with you. So we need a clear understanding of your family dynamics, and what do you have? So assets, liabilities, anything that is, what you currently have in your net worth picture. And what we utilize to gather all this information is the Right Capital web-based planning software. There is both an advisor and client interface with this software. What that means is that, in the past, when you worked with an advisor, your advisor controlled the whole plan. The only time you got to see your financial plan or you got to update your financial plan was that, once every 6 months or however often it was, that you actually sat down and met with your advisor. Otherwise, you had no access to it, and maybe a printed version of the last time you met, but that was about it. There was no active interface. With this planning software, clients have their own login. So at any point, 24/7, you're up late in the evening with your partner, and you want to just check on your financial plan and maybe see, how different scenarios might play out. There is a client interface for that, so you can log in and see those things. And there's even different levers that you can change and say, well, what if we, retired a year early or 2 years later, or whatever the case is? How is that going to affect our overall likelihood for success? And you can interact with the system that way. It also means that you can input the information on your time. So, and I'm going to show you this in a minute. We're going to go right into the Right Capital software system so you can see how it operates. But essentially, you can upload that information on your own time ahead of our meeting, so that it's already in the system. There's also a way to aggregate any external accounts. So external accounts that we can't manage for you internally. Examples are 401k accounts, or certain types of bank accounts or credit cards or things like that. You can actually aggregate them, which means you can link them up to our system where we have the real-time numbers fed to us on a daily basis from those institutions. It doesn't work with all institutions, I'll be honest, but that's the case with any software. But with most institutions that you have a username and password, you can link it to our web-based planning software. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that web-based planning software so that you can see it. Bear with me just a minute here. All right. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that. Now, disclaimer, Joe sample and Jane sample are samples. They're not real clients, so I'm not disclosing any, confidential information here. We've set this plan up, and it's a very, you're going to see it's a very simple plan. I did that intentionally so as not to get too complex or complicated in this explanation or this demonstration of the system here. But in the event that somebody has a very complicated, very complex, detailed situation, you can get as detailed as you want. And actually, that's what we prefer, because the more detailed that we get and the more accurate the information is in the system, the better the recommendations that we can make. So obviously, this Right Capital system is not necessarily made in the prototype of the Prosperity Pathfinder, but we've been able to use it to reflect some of the stages. So stage one, the current manifest, basically we'll start with, so this main screen here, let me just explain this to you first. This main screen here is your snapshot. So it's essentially your instrument panel, if you will, if you're flying a plane, for example, showing you a lot of the vital information that you need all on one page. This can be customized. So if you can see here, you can move these little dials around, you can add different dashboard items, you can actually customize it to be just the information you want to see. And it gives you an overall view of your current situation. Over here, this is the probability of success. This has a lot to do with, the goals that we will set. So it doesn't really have to do with the current manifest. But here you've got your current net worth, your current effective tax rate, your current balance sheet, current allocation of your investments, making sure that that's in line with what we might propose. And then also tax allocation summary, which is shows you how your assets are set up. So like tax deferred assets, for example, would be the money that's in your IRA. And clearly that's important to know, because we want to make sure that you have your accounts set up in the most tax efficient way for your situation. So when we start with the current manifest, we go into your profile section, and we'll start with your net worth. This is, again, where you get your own username and password, and you can input all of this information on your own time. When you're at your own home, you can get to your own files right then and there. You don't have to bring a whole binder or all these stuff into the office and make photocopies and all this other stuff. You can set it up right there at home. And then all of these inputs, you can see that they're manual, because this is a sample client, so there's no actual accounts to link them to. But in this event, like for bank, let's say you had a checking account at Chase Bank or something like that, you could actually just hit aggregation here, and it would prompt you to link the Chase account by sending you off to the Chase website. You log in, and then all of a sudden now it's linked, and it would be real-time information. That is pretty much the best way to do it. And then, of course, all your LPL accounts that you would hold with me as your advisor, they will automatically populate into here and automatically be real-time in this program. You can also add credit cards, investment accounts, loans, any outside property, insurance policies. So you can see here the sample couple has brokerage accounts. They have several IRAs, 401ks. They have a 529 college savings account. And then under loans, they have their primary mortgage. And And when you click on here too, you can input a lot of information regarding the mortgage. So what the interest rate is, current balance, monthly payment. So there's a way to get very detailed with everything that you see here. And this is how we kind of gather information on your assets and liabilities. So goals section, we're going to skip during the current manifest because we're not doing that until the next stage. We need to know what your current income is, of course. We've got salaries, rental income from maybe some properties, Social Security. And again, this is estimated, but here we can go in here if somebody has their Social Security statement or they're already collecting Social Security, we can input that exact amount to get this thing really accurate. Savings rates, once again, this isn't what we're proposing. This is going to be capturing what the client is actually, what you are actually contributing right now, so that then we can make recommendations later on. Maybe you should be saving more. Maybe this saving in this taxable account isn't as beneficial as you maxing out your 401k. That's where all of these recommendations will come from. But we have to know what you're currently doing in order to make those. Expenses. So once again, you can take the simple approach, which is just sort of guesstimating what your monthly expenses are, or you can work with this detailed worksheet, which you could sit down and say, okay, how much are we spending on each of these categories, and get it very, very accurate. Again, the more accurate this stage is, the more detailed and accurate we have your current manifest at, the better the recommendations will be when we get to the journey navigator. Family, again, I think this is one area that's very overlooked by other advisors. They don't capture your family dynamic, and the family dynamic is extremely important, especially when it comes to carrying out your wishes later and caring for any kind of minor children or elderly parents, or situations like that. So we need to know the family dynamic. We can capture it here. And then what I really like about Right Capital is that it gives you these blueprints. So this is the blueprint of your all of your assets, and it also tells us, which is extremely important, how these assets are registered and titled. So Joe, the husband, over here are all the assets that are in his name only, and then all the life insurance policies that he owns. This is all the jointly held accounts, and these are Jane's accounts. What this shows us is, are there situations where this account should be a joint account, or that account doesn't have a proper beneficiary on it? Things like that we can notice, especially when you see it visually like this. And then once you also, if you say you establish a marital trust, now we have to figure out, okay, what assets make sense to register now in the name of that trust. Since we have the trust, we should fund it, right? Because it's supposed to serve a purpose. So this will just give us a good idea of how assets should be held and entitled. And then over here, income, savings, and expenses. Once again, you can see, where is the income coming from? How much income is Joe bringing in? Maybe they have some joint income. And then savings, who's saving and where are they saving? And out of what income? So that is the basic profile information. And this information is what you'll kind of fill out at the very beginning. This will be the first thing that you do, is the system will take you through and help guide you through inputting all of this information in. For estate planning, this is again part of the current manifest. We need to get a good, clear understanding of your estate documents. Do you have them in place, and who is involved? So you've got your 5 most important estate documents listed here. And that is the will, your power of attorney, your living will, your healthcare proxy, or healthcare power of attorney as it's called sometimes, and your living trust. And then here we're going to make sure your beneficiary designations are all correct on accounts that these legal documents may not apply to. For example, IRA accounts, there can be specific beneficiaries listed on those. Are they listed, and are they current? And then again, for each of these documents, we have the name of who is the executor, who is the guardian, when you're dealing with, maybe an elderly parent or a minor child who's going to step in as guardian. And then when was the last document last updated? I've seen several times in my career instances where people grab a document from their parents' file cabinet and they start executing upon that document, whether it be a will or a trust or something like that, only to find out later that there was an amendment or there was a newer version out there that they didn't know about. And, things were not done exactly according to plan. So it's very important to also have in here when it was last updated. The other reason that's important is because you really should be reviewing your legal documents every 3 to 5 years. The reason why is not because maybe your life hasn't changed and you feel like you need to update them, but the laws change. And so when the laws change, you have to update your documents to reflect current law and make sure that they're still relevant and legal. So that's the estate planning sort of inventory that we take. And then here's the beneficiary inventory that we take. So in addition to those estate planning documents, we can list all of your accounts, whether they be internal to LPL, which would be under me as an advisor, or if they're at the bank, or your 401k at work, or wherever those accounts are held, we can still account for them here. And these accounts get basically pulled in from that net worth inventory that we saw on the other page. And it'll tell us, do we have a primary beneficiary? Do we have a contingent beneficiary? On the life insurance side, what is the death benefit amount? Do we have a primary and a contingent? Again, this makes sure that number one, you have beneficiaries listed on all accounts that you can have beneficiaries listed so that you can avoid probate on those accounts. But also, if someone is handling your affairs, after you cannot, then we can account for all the accounts that are out there, whether they be with me or be in some outside institution. They can be accounted for, and we can know exactly, what the worth is and the value is and who to contact. And this analysis here, this is, gets a little bit confusing, and it's usually done, maybe in more complex estate planning situations, but it's very helpful to estate planning attorneys because this will basically lay out if we do nothing else, this is how the flow of assets would happen upon, the death of the account holders. And then it gives us ideas on maybe what we can do to make things maybe more tax efficient, or maybe there's a situation where you're like, well, wait a minute, I didn't want to leave that much to that person. We need to do this over here, or maybe I wanted to leave some to this charity, and we can, kind of see the big picture in a very visual format here. Same thing with the tax situation. So this gives us a tax estimate. If everything stays the same and we're in our current state, this is what your effective tax rate would be as you progress in life. We all know that nothing's more certain than death and taxes, right? So taxes will change, and most likely they go up over time. Hopefully they go down at some point, but so this will change as well, but it at least gives us some sort of estimate to start working with. And then again, we can work with your tax strategist or your CPA to come up with other strategies. So this is an example that I use for folks when we're talking about Roth conversion strategies. This is when somebody is maybe 10 years or so out from turning 73, when they have to start taking their required minimum distributions, we may come up with a strategy just to start converting some of their taxable assets, like not taxable, but tax deferred, like an IRA, into a tax-free asset like a Roth. The benefits to that would be that when you take them out later, their distributions are tax-free and they're not subject to RMDs. But again, we need to know what your current situation is and what we're working with now in order to know if that's even a strategy that's possible. But this was just to give you an example of ways we can work with your tax advisor to come up with different strategies. And again, this gets very detailed and intricate. So I don't want to bore anybody if I haven't already. But just to give you an example of some of the tools we can use with your CPA. Again, education planning, we can look at how people are saving for education currently, and then make recommendations as a result. what types of current insurance do you have in place? And then once we know that, and we know all that other information, we can come up with proposed insurance coverage that you might need. And then under this retirement section, again, we want to capture your current plan as it exists right now, and we also want to capture Social Security, Medicare, all that information, all that goes into the current manifest stage. With your investments, we need to know what your current allocation is. So we will look at your outside investments like 401k plans and other plans that might be outside of our ability to have them in-house, managed in-house. We still need to know how they're allocated, because we need to make sure that everything is sort of playing well together and everything is matching what we ultimately want as your target allocation when we make that recommendation. So that is pretty much it in a nutshell for the current manifest. I know it bleeds into each other a little bit when you're working with this system, but that's essentially the information that we're trying to capture. And I wanted to give you some reasons why we're trying to capture that and what it's going to be useful for as we make these recommendations, and why it's so important to be very detailed and accurate during this phase. So let me go back to our presentation here. Give me just a minute. Lost my spot. Okay, here we go. Okay, so getting started now. Like I said before, I believe the majority of folks that are on this call right now are already clients. Maybe some of you are at different phases, in that Prosperity Pathfinder process. But some of you, may be interested in becoming a client, which is great. And some of you may have people that that would potentially benefit from at least having this initial phone call. So to give you an idea of how we approach, potential new clients, is once they're either referred to us or, we meet someone that we think could be a potentially good client, or someone's interested, we set up an initial fit phone call. I call it a fit phone call because, as you can see below, it says, it essentially allows you to determine if we are a fit for your needs. And it allows us to determine if you're a fit for our practice and our process. I mean, we certainly don't want to bring any clients on that may distract from our ability to service our current clients at the levels that we want to service them. And that would be a problem if someone comes on board and is looking for us to do things outside of our purview, outside of the way that we normally do things and normally add value for our clients. So it's basically just a 30-minute casual phone call. We're not making any decisions during that call. We're just getting to know each other, see if there's chemistry, see if we do what the potential client is looking for. We'll follow up in 2 to 3 days after that phone call, see if both sides want to move to the next step. And if we want to move to the next step, then that very first step is sending the potential client that link to begin the current manifest process, meaning they're uploading all of their information into the right capital system, so that we have that at least a starting point anyway for that first meeting, which will be all discovery and getting that information as detailed and as accurate as possible. So any questions, please feel free. As always, give us a call. We are going to be continuing with this. It's going to be a 4-part webinar series. I will be doing it on a monthly basis, so look for another invitation for next month's webinar. Next month, of course, naturally, will be stage 2, which is the destination clarifier. And that's actually a lot more fun than this one, just to be honest. So look forward to that. You should be getting an email, and if you can't, for some reason, if you cannot attend the live webinar, Please always feel free to sign up, because if you sign up, you will get emailed a replay link where you can watch the replay of the webinar on demand. So even if you can't attend, go ahead and sign up. We'll send you the replay link after the fact. If you have any questions, like I said, call us, email us, visit our website, link up with us on LinkedIn, and we're also on Facebook, Boardwalk Wealth Solutions Facebook page. Thank you again for joining us. I appreciate it. I hope you got something out of this evening. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.